get the kitty cats and doggies settled. Maybe. Okay, so Jane and John have taken over the inn. And now this inn's been there for a long time. And, yes, then Jane's husband John is killed. So now Thora has lost her husband and she's lost her son. So and Thora had went to live with her sister, so she comes back to help. Then Thora's other son, which would be Jane's brother-in-law, shows up. Now he's been off and away at sea, and all of a sudden he shows up, which seems very suspicious. And you're kind of wondering what his motives are. Or is he going to try to take the inn from Jane? Does he feel that he should have it and not her, because of course she's a woman? And the inn is doing poorly. The inn did well for a lot of years. Now there's a new turnpike going in. And with this new turnpike, traffic is being routed away from the inn. So they're losing a lot of business. Then this other man comes to town, and he decides to buy Jane's house where she grew up, because Jane's parents are gone. And of course they had money, so they had a nice house called Fairmont. And he decides to take it over, and it's not very far away, and he decides to turn it into a hotel. And he already owns a hotel in a bigger city, so he kind of knows what he's doing. And he has more modern ways, because of course the inn that Jane takes over is very, very old, and they're still doing things in a very old-fashioned way. Where this new man that moved in and putting in a new inn is more up to date and more modern. And of course Thora, since she owned the hotel for many years with her husband, is kind of against all these new ways, because the old ways worked well for many years, so that's a difficulty. Then you have the bank after them. Turns out, before John died, he took out a $15,000 loan, which nobody knew about. And, well, one man did. The man who works in the stables was his friend, and he knew about it. But nobody else knew. So now the bank is saying, hey, you owe us $15,000 or we got to close you up. And so it gets very, very difficult. The man who worked there for many years when Thora and her husband were there, he kept the accounts. He pretty well ran the whole place in a whole lot of ways. He was very involved with everything. He leaves because his brother dies and leaves him a farm, which isn't very far away. So he was, he really took care of the place and a lot about it. So now that he's gone, they had to hire someone else to fill in his place. And the man that they hire, Thora had had trouble in the past with his father. So she's not too thrilled with the son being there, taking over the job. So anyways, it's an interesting story in a way that it did hold my attention, because you do wonder, what's Jane gonna do? She's really not trained as growing up as a socialite. She's really not trained to be able to run a business. And thankfully she has Thora's help, but Thora has a very hard type personality. She's not the easiest person to get along with, so that makes it a little difficult. You do kind of delve into her personality more, because I found her personality very difficult to handle myself. I thought, why do you want to be like that? Like, why do you want to talk that way? Why do you not want people to like you? But it does go more into her emotional state and how she's feeling, so you do get some understanding of her. Then of course there's all these side characters. The man who runs the main coach, the coach and horses that shows up there, he really has a love interest in Thora, and he's known her for a long time, because he's run the mail coach that has stopped there for, many years. The man who left to run, I believe his name was Taylor, but anyways, I can't remember. But he has a love interest in Thora too. He worked there for many years with her and her husband, so he knows her very well. Now Jane has the new guy that came along taking over her house, who's interesting. There's Sir Timothy, who has known her all her life, who is very interested in her. Oh, shoot, there's somebody else. Oh, and the man who works with the horses, who knew her husband and was there when her husband was killed, he's very interested in her too. And I don't know, like, I'm torn. I'm torn between the three because this book goes on, right? Like, this is only the first book. And I'm very torn. Sir Timothy would be safe. He has money, of course, he's Sir Timothy. And he's nice. He knows her. He's known her all her life. And so he loves her. He would give her a very safe, comfortable life, social life, society life. The new guy, I believe his name is James. Sorry, I should have looked all this up, made notes, and I didn't. Who's going to open up her old house where she grew up. He's, well, a businessman. He seems very suave. Can't think of the word. He'd be good for her too. He's seems very nice too. Very smart when it comes to business. Very open-minded. Trying out all the new things in life that are coming along with the age of the time. Like they call it a water closet, putting a water closet in, which is a bathroom, into the big personal suites. He's putting, their own bathrooms in. And the man who takes care of the horses, he seems very, I don't know, again, honest, nice, stable, cowboy type. We don't really know much about his history, and I kind of wonder. If he has his own ranch or farm and isn't saying so. And he stayed to help her at the inn because of her husband dying and him being there when her husband died, and because he felt compelled to stay and help her with the business and to be there after her husband was killed. And but I kind of get a feeling that maybe he has money. He has his own place and his own ranch, and I don't know yet. You'd have to read the next book. So it's interesting. You have to figure out, how they're going to save the place and what's going to happen and if they're going to be able to stay open and who she's going to end up with. And then Thora has the two love interests too. So there's the other friends. There's one lady that she hung around with as a kid, but they kind of went their own ways and they're not that close now, but they're hoping to get closer again as friends. And then she has another friend, Mercy, and who never got married, and she's running a girls' boarding school now out of her home. So, there's always the side character and the town people and what the town people think and, stuff like that. So it's a slow and steady book, but it does hold your interest. The characters hold your interest. The one lady that was her friend as a child, I think her name was Rachel. She actually was taking care of her dad in their home, and her dad finally has passed away. He was ill, and the house was left to a distant cousin, Mr. Ashford, and he shows up, and she has to leave. She's like, her dad's gone. The house goes to the next male relative. So she's like, where's she going to go and what she's going to do. And then this distant male cousin shows up who she's never met. And he has his mom with him. And his mother is kind of difficult. And he says, will you marry me? You marry me, you can stay here. And she's like, she's only met him twice. She met him the first day he showed up at the house. And then he came back over and he's like, well, marry me, you can stay here. And he's very kind of like shy, seems very timid and embarrassed about everything. So you have to see what's going to happen there and what she's going to do. She said no because she's like, she doesn't even know the guy. So she's going to go stay at Mercy's, but she knows that she can't stay there all her life. So anyways, so yes, there's a lot of things going on, and Jane kind of delves into how her husband died and what happened, and where the $15,000 went, because there's not a clue where this $15,000 is and what's going on there. And then there's the banker who's taking care of all this stuff, who's not very nice either. And yeah, so it's worth reading. Like I say, it's not like an exciting book. It's just kind of gets you wrapped up with all the characters and what's going to happen, and they're all very personable, type characters. And a lady shows up. Little things on the side happens. A lady shows up at the inn. She comes in, instead of getting back on the stage when it leaves when they change up horses, instead of leaving, she decides to stay, and then she ends up having a miscarriage, and she's just a passenger who just stopped there and decided to stay overnight. And yeah, she ended up having a miscarriage. They didn't, of course, know she was pregnant, but anyways, one of the maids heard a thud, and there's the side characters like that too, like the maid that works there, the cook that works there, and things that go on with them, and the other men who help with the horses, and town ladies that come by to do certain things or help with certain things, and their stories. So then when she has this miscarriage, you get the doctor there, so she's okay. And it's probably from riding in the stage for so many hours, bumping and jerking around. Then you find out her story, and then Thora finds out that Jane actually had 2 miscarriages, which Thora never knew about. And that's why Jane and John never had any kids, and because she had 2 miscarriages. So Thor shows some of her heart there when she finds out that Jane had the miscarriages. So anyways, it's not like a soap opera. It's really not, because I don't like soap operas. And it's better than that. Somebody actually said it was like Downtown Abbey in the comments. Now again, I've never watched Downtown Abbey. I saw it in passing on TV years ago, or I saw commercials for it, stuff like that. I never watched it, but